Right, okay, VR. Right, this is gonna be a bit long and rambly because I don't have a whole lot of footage to go behind this. Basically, at EGX, I tried the PlayStation VR and I also tried the HTC Vive. I haven't tried the Oculus Rift consumer version. I do have a DK2 though, so all my comparisons are going to be made to the DK2, which I know is a bit outdated, but and I can obviously make several assumptions about the consumer version based on the DK2 and based on the Vive and all that. I'm going to go over these sort of one by one, and then I'm going to say generally what's the best. Now, first of all, the PlayStation VR. This is the one I didn't know much about, and it was the one I was quite curious about because it's PlayStation making VR. I was like, oh, God, the fuck is it running on a PS4 or whatever? I went through quite a kerfuffle to get a go of it, and unfortunately they wouldn't let us film in there. But the demo I got, I was sat down and I had the PlayStation VR in my head, and I had two PlayStation Move controllers in my hands, and you were sat in a van, and you were given an Uzi, and you had to pick up the ammo from like the middle of the van and reload the Uzi and fire at people outside. The tracking was very good. From a hardware perspective, the PlayStation VR, I guess it's the worst of the bunch. I'd say it's the entry level thing. I'd say the quality of the screens and sort of pixel depth and everything, resolution and all that was about the same as the DK2. So you can see the pixels. You can see the pixels very obviously. And it was a prototype, the one I was wearing, but I don't think it's ever going to get really any better than that due to the limitations of the PlayStation 4. It also, the way it's sat on your head. If you ever use an Oculus, especially a DK2, you'll know that you can look sort of down your nose and see out of the thing, so you still have a perspective of where you are. On this, the entire bottom didn't cover your face, so you could see out the entire bottom. It didn't really immerse you that well, but it was pretty good for games. And I think the advantage of the PlayStation VR, or I think the Vive or the Oculus, is that it's very entry level. You have a PS4, you get one. It'll run. The games that can run for it, I mean, the game I played didn't look very good. The graphics were quite low on it, and it was quite a sparse environment. But it was still running on a PS4, and it was running at, a good frame rate. I'm not sure what it was running at, but it was running at, a frame rate that I didn't notice. It was running at least 70, I think, 75. So it's a good entry-level piece of kit. It's not something I'd buy. I'd say if you really want to get into VR, it's not something I'd buy. It's not something I'd recommend people buy. But if you want to get into it, if you want to have an experience with it, if you have a PlayStation, yeah, it's a reasonably good piece of kit. The next is the Oculus. Once again, I haven't tried the consumer version. Oculus weren't there at EGX for some reason. They've been there both other years. But for some reason they weren't there this year, even though both their competitors were there, and I would have thought they would have wanted to show off, the Oculus with all the new stuff when their competitors were there, but they weren't. I don't know why. But I'm going to compare it to the DK. I'm going to say about the DK2 and sort of the what I know about the newer version, and I can make a fair amount of assumptions based on that. The DK2 is reasonably good. As I said, I own one. I've used it for quite a few things. I can't use it anymore. I upgraded to Windows 10. The drivers stopped working, then they updated the drivers to Windows 10, and those drivers don't support any of the old games. So that's great. I can't run anything on it anymore. But it's quite capable in what it does. It's generally meant for sitting down on a desk and sat down and playing. I'd say it's mainly oriented towards sort of flight simulators and car games and all that. I know the consumer version tracks the back as well. So it'll track if you turn around, and it can be stood up with, and you can have a bit of a bigger range with it. But I think its main focus is that it's where it works best is sat down. I know the resolution of the Oculus is higher than the Vive, so that might be a factor. Although the Vive, I didn't notice the pixels on the Vive, so I don't know if that's going to be a huge factor either. The Oculus controllers, I have no experience with them, unfortunately, but I imagine they're probably going to be as good as the Vive controllers or the PlayStation controllers. They work. They both track well. I can't imagine the Oculus ones aren't going to track well. The main concern with the Oculus, though, is it's bundled with an Xbox One controller because of the Microsoft partnership, and I'm worried about that because if those touch controllers aren't bundled with it, I worry that many people just aren't going to get them, which means not many games are going to be made for those touch controllers. And at the same time, like, if I want to buy an Oculus, I already have an Xbox One controller. I don't want another one. Hopefully they'll have a bundle without one, and I can just get the touch controllers. We'll see when they sort of announce proper pricing for them. But yeah. Lastly, the Vive, the HTC Vive. Now, this This was the one I was very interested in. I almost actually... Oh, God, I dropped my pen. I almost blew off my appointment on it, because I had an appointment for the Vive and PlayStation, and I almost blew it off, just because it was a 3:30 at the day I was going to leave, and I didn't really have much to do leading up to it, and I kind of wanted to go home. And I almost blew it off because I just wanted to leave, but I ended up waiting, and I went there. I got to the appointment at 3:30, was delayed by 45 minutes. Didn't get in until like 4:20. And you know what? It was completely fucking worth it. If any of you have ever tried an Oculus, I don't know how many of you have, but when I first tried the Oculus, I went, "Holy fuck, this is a game changer." It was just it's incredible the first time you experience VR. And I've become accustomed to the Oculus. I own one. I've used it quite regularly. You know, I understand how it works. You know, I get it and I like it and I think it's really good. But I've become accustomed to it. I put on the Vive now. I'm gonna give some context to how the whole Vive thing went down. They brought me into it was a large square room with sort of padded walls, sort of padded black walls and a black carpet floor. And there was nothing else in it. There was a computer in the very corner, and that was it. And there was the Vive in the middle. And you go in, you get the Vive put on your head. You tighten it quite tight. And the first thing that I noticed with the Vive especially is that, unlike the Oculus and the PlayStation VR, it actually encapsulates your eyes completely. And so the Oculus, you can look down the nose. The VR, you can look down the entire bottom. But this, it completely immersed you. You could not see outside that at all without taking it off. It was very comfortable. You couldn't see outside without taking it off at all. Now, one of the things they first did is they you can see the controllers in the VR, right? If they're on the floor, you can see the controllers, and they're rendered as the controllers. You know, they look like the controllers. They are in the same place as the controllers. So the person who was showing it off to me, they picked up the controllers and they handed them to me in VR. And honestly, I couldn't see outside the thing, but the tracking was so good that I could grab those controllers in VR without actually being able to see them in real life, which was weird in the first place. And we went over sort of 3 demos. There were 3 or 4 demos if you count the bloody menu as a demo. The menu, sort of, you can blow up little balloons and whack them out the way. And obviously these controllers are the Steam controllers, so they have the touchpads with the haptic feedback on, like the Steam controllers, and it was the first time using them as well, and haptic feedback was very, very good on those. So I did the bit with the, I did the bit with the balloons, I was comfortable, and then, walk forward, she says. Okay, walk forward. Which is a weird thing. Obviously, I'm not used to walking forward in VR. It's very disconcerting the first time you do it, and it's still quite disconcerting and a bit disorientating as well when you're doing it the first time, because you're worried about hitting something, but then when you sort of get comfortable with it and realize that you're not going to hit anything and not to worry, it becomes a lot better. So you walk forward, and when you get to the edge of the room, sort of like a blue sort of transparent thing appears in VR. So this is the edge. Don't walk any further. You're going to hit something. Walk back and blah blah. And we go into the first demo. And the first demo is it's a shipwreck under the sea. You're on a shipwreck under the sea, and you can walk around the deck. And I was walking around this deck, and you could swat the fish out the way. And it was weird. I was looking around. I was going, okay, this is fucking incredible. First of all, the pixel density of the screens was very good. I think it's about 1080 each eye, and it was running at 90 hertz. So the quality was incredible. I did not see the pixels. I do not remember seeing the pixels. If I got it and I scrutinized it more carefully, I probably would. But in this environment, I didn't. So we're running around this little shipwreck. It was only a small little area to wander around. You just wander around the deck. You look over the edge. I was very much going to test whether, I could, if I walked off the edge, would I float? Would I just fall down? I didn't want to. Your body doesn't... When your body sees an edge, you don't want to step there. That's not natural. Your body's like, no, that is an edge. Stop that. And I'm like, but it's VR. And your body's like, no, I know, don't go there. So I didn't. I was looking around, and then I just saw a shadow. I was like, what the fuck's shadow? I look up, and there's a massive fucking whale. Massive fucking whale. And it comes right up beside me, and it looks me in the fucking eye. This whale's fucking eyes there. It's coolest thing. Really cool experience that was. But that wasn't it. The next demo was a 3D painting tool. Your controllers appeared as tools. On the left controller, you could sort of push on the thumbstick left and right to sort of change the tool set. So, for example, you can change the type of tool you were using, stars or paintbrush or pencil or whatever. And on the next one, you could choose tools, like line tools, triangle tools, circle tools, blah, blah, blah. And the next tool, you could choose colors. And I can't remember what was in the other one, honestly. And obviously, on the right controller, you drew. We're using the trigger. And it was weird at first, because you start drawing, and you're like, yeah, and then you just walk through your drawing, and you go, oh. Because I'm very used to with the Oculus, me leaning forward like a foot, and just it going out of range and it being fucked. But this was incredible. So you walk through, I did a rainbow, I did all this shit. You probably see some footage of me doing that there as well. I was on the floor, I was drawing little things on the floor. It was all very strange, but very, very interesting. It was very good to be able to. You use the right controller to pick things on the left controller in VR, and it was accurate enough for me to do that perfectly well. Like you're holding a pen and you're tapping something on a piece of paper in your left hand. It was very accurate. Final demo was a Portal demo. Put you into Rapture Science Laboratories. You're in there. You're in a little box room. You have the robot guy telling you to go open some drawers, and it's very funny. One of the drawers, there was a bunch of those little, those little people from the loading screens, little stick people. They're in this drawer in 3D, and you open the drawer, and they all start panicking and running around and throwing the desk over the place, and someone bowing to you. It's like, now they're gone. It's just being able to look around this thing fully without the sort of limitations that I'm used to with sort of the Oculus, where you can't really lean into anything properly, was incredible. And it was so well done, and it ran so well. And then, I walked over, opened the door, and one of the multiplayer characters walks in, the round one, I can't remember the name, walks in, massive thing, walks in, stomps in, I have to move back and walk backwards. And it lands, and you have to open him up, drag him out, drag all the bits. It's like, you have to go to repair him, and you think it's a game, then it's just a fuck, it's to fuck you around. There's no way to repair him, because it makes it so complicated that it's impossible. And then he falls to the ground in bits, and then, he gets disposed of, and then GLaDOS appears. He just, right in front of you. Oh, it's you. Massive fucking GLaDOS. Imposing as fuck, incredible. Oh, it's you, and she starts, giving you, the insults and blah, blah, and the room's being remade around you. And, it's this weird thing. He's walking around this room, figuring out how to escape, and then you turn around, and a thing opens up, and there's a portal test chamber in there. And then it crush, and then it ends. It was incredible. Like, the HTC Vive is the first thing I went, no, yes, this is actually fucking revolutionary. I don't use that word lightly. It was fucking incredible. It was fucking actually incredible. I can't see much practicality to it necessarily in homes, because I know someone I was talking to mentioned that it has some issues with reflective surfaces, like tables or wooden floors. Also, the space is a limiting factor. You can have it in a 1 by 1 meter square if you want to, but I think to get the full experience, you need a larger area. And most people don't have that, especially in the UK. The hardware it was running off was only a 980, which is still a powerful thing, but it was one 980 running this, quite powerful thing. It wasn't a massively overly powerful PC. It was a powerful PC, but it wasn't. It was reachable. It was something like I have about that amount of power in my PC, which is quite good. So yeah, they're the limiting factors, but I can see its application sort of like, I imagine it maybe not on arcade, but I can imagine it like, it's the first thing I can see as an actual holodeck, like from Star Trek. Like, it felt like an actual holodeck. I can see it like being in bars and shit. It's like they'll have a room with just this in, and you walk around and you just do shit in VR. One of the other issues with it is that there's the wire coming out. The controls are wireless, but the headset is wired. Which, obviously you can't see it. You're aware it's there, so you can generally avoid tripping over it, but, sometimes it is a bit annoying and it takes you out of it a bit. Apparently there's no way to do it wirelessly, because they can't, they can barely, there's like 5 cables going into it. The bandwidth required for it's ridiculous, apparently. So there's no way to do it wirelessly. Unfortunately, they can figure out. I can see ways of putting the cables sort of in the roof, and sort of like a little ball running it around, so you can't get stuck in it. I can see that being a thing that might happen. It depends on how you set it up, of course. But it was revolutionary and it was amazing, and honestly, that just took the show for me. Like, that was the one thing. Like, I saw quite a few things at EGX. Oh yeah, it's alright. Oh yeah, it's kind of alright. And it was most of the things, but this was, I went, holy absolute fuck. I was in fucking awe when walking around. I had the biggest fucking grin on my face, and it was just so amazing, so absolutely amazing. I can't express that enough. Holy shit! And it's a prototype. Mind you, it's a prototype as well. The one I was playing was a prototype, and it was still better than half the shit I've ever used. It was still better than anything I've ever used. So, eh. Oh, fuck me. Anyway, 15-minute video on VR. Sorry it was rambly, but I felt it was necessary to explain my experience and shit, so, yeah. Anyway, that's the end of the EGX videos. Yeah. Goodbye.